over the next 2 days, I'm going to be putting these drivers head to head. One is the Cobra LTDx LS, the driver which Cobra have developed for Bryson DeChambeau. The other is 7 years old and is partly responsible for drives like these. Now, you may remember last year, Bryson had a little bit of a moan about the RADSPEED driver. He said, and I quote, "The driver sucks. It's not a good face for me, and we're still trying to figure out how to make it good on the mishits. I'm living on a razor's edge, like I've told people for a long time." He later apologized for those comments, but he continued to use the Cobra King LTD Pro. So he obviously still wasn't impressed with that RADSPEED driver. So I've modeled this comparison slightly differently. So last year, Bryson was using the Cobra King LTD Pro. Now, the difference between the LTD and the LTD Pro is very much just loft options. So you can get a lower loft option in the LTD Pro, and you could also have a slightly fade bias. I'm also going to be hitting both these drivers with the same shaft, so the comparison will be pretty much identical. The Cobra King LTD was a fairly interesting driver when it was released. Cobra introduced carbon into the crown, and that saved weight. What they did, they plugged into the center of the driver this ridiculous spaceport. The glass apparently used in space missions, and it can actually be removed if the urge takes you. But this plug is also a weight which, unlike other drivers, position the center of gravity to the neutral line, creating a zero CG driver. Now, you don't really need to go into the science of this, and to be honest, if it actually made any difference, I'm not so sure. Now, I've already heard from Cobra that they've spent a long time now actually planning out, that's a bit more like it, planning out this driver with Bryson, so I don't think that it's going to be trash. So I'm still a little bit on the fence whether Tour Pro sponsorship and Tour Pro ambassadorship actually makes a difference to your buying decisions. Get down to those comments and let me know if they do. But Bryson is their poster boy, you know, they have to get him using their most recent products. Now, Cobra brought out 3 different versions of this driver, which I will display here, all aimed at specific categories of players. So if you need something more forgiving, and this is at the top end of the market for those players who want the lower spin. Now, behind the ball, absolutely love the way the look of it, love the way it sits. It's set to 9.5 degrees. I've been doing some pre-testing, and I don't normally have the loft that high, but this is a very low spinning driver. You can see here, 10 gram weight and a 3 gram weight here at the front, pushed all the way forward to really reduce that spin, because that's what it's all about. It's the high launch, low spin. It's the forgiveness factor with these low spinning drivers, which is always going to be the issue. So far, on the off-center strikes I've had on the course, it's been okay, okay. Nothing to shout home about. Oh my God, caught a bit, got on the green. That looked good. It was good. Oh, pin eye, all right. So, what are Cobra saying is new with this driver? Well, by the way, let me just have one there. So we should get some good readings out of that. We should get some good readings out of that. So Cobra have got a label on this face, and it is called the H.O.T. face. Subtle, I know. Now, machine learning and AI are 2 slightly different things apparently, but maybe Cobra just don't want to say AI because Callaway are banging that drum so much. So for the data gathering, I'm trying to swing these clubs about 115 miles an hour. Both the drivers are set at 9.5 degrees, and both are going to be used with a Fujikura Motor or Motori X, or I don't know how it's pronounced, this black X stiff shaft. Cobra say they've added 30% more carbon to this club head, so they've taken away more titanium. That allows them to stick a little bit more weight at the front of the club, allowing for some lower spin but higher launches if you're keeping that loft high. That'll be an interesting one because that was a bit more toey. Only a little bit though, just outside the circle. So now onto the King LTD here on the course. I mean, it's quite a It's quite a striking look on top of the crown with this checked pattern. Kind of looks like a shadowy kitchen floor from the 1980s, which is fine if you like shadowy kitchen floors from the 1980s. It actually sits really well. So this has got a smart pad on the bottom, and this is a technology that Cobra introduced onto their drivers, and it just makes it sit really square behind the ball. Par 5 here. I've been told not to hit driver off this tee, but I think that's absolutely ludicrous, quite frankly. So I can just hit those cheeky little buttercups back into the fairway. So on to the King LTD, Bryson's driver. And the most notable design features on this driver is obviously this glass port in the bottom. Now, Cobra did this originally to take some weight away from the head, redistribute it, but it also gave them an excuse to say, oh look, we've got some glass which was used in the space station in our driver, how cool are we? As far as gimmicks go, sticking a space port in a driver has to be up there. Absolutely ludicrous. However, that's not to say that it's not a good driver. So same shaft, same loft, very different sound. Question is, are the results going to be different? We will find out. So I have done a little bit of data testing with the Cobra drivers back home, but here on this driving range, I've hit about 10 shots with each. I rounded it down to 5. One of the key components of the new Cobra drivers is that forgiveness element. I am not saying this to blow my own trumpet, but I've hit the ball really well today. So a lot of these drives really did come out the center. If anything, a touch towards the toe, but not a lot. And the data is a little bit awkward, if I'm going to be honest with you. So first of all, I wasn't quite able to perfectly match up my swing speed. So I was 116 miles an hour with the LTDx, and with the Spaceport LTD, I was 114.6. So talking about just over half a mile an hour of swing speed. But the ball speed being produced was almost identical. So 170 miles an hour with the new driver and 169 miles an hour with the OG LTD. Spin rate's almost exactly the same, so 2370, 2304. But here is where we start to get to the interesting figures. So the LTD OG, that carried 303.4 compared to the LTDx, which carried 301.7. There was a 2 mile an hour in total difference, so 321 for the King LTD versus 319.2 for the LTDx. Efficiency was exactly the same, so my ball striking was very good at 1.47. So I'm looking at these numbers, I'm seeing so little difference. And the only differences I am seeing are weighted more in the favor of the older driver. So yeah. So what do you think about these results? Get down into those comments below. If you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel, but also check out this one here as well to continue watching. Big thank you to Whirlwind for having us down as well. Beautiful, beautiful course here in Arizona. Absolutely loved it. And we're back here again tomorrow.